So we'll go back to the impact of waste generally, but we can break this down into plastic waste, and we can bring this down into single-use packaging impacts. So some of the impacts are air pollution, especially in open landfills. Waste releases methane, which is a greenhouse gas. When we burn waste, it also emits carbon dioxide, which is also a greenhouse gas and is involved in acid rain. It also releases ash, which are heavy metals and other toxins. And 40% of the world's trash is burned in this kind of way in open piles. Also, the transport of waste produces greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, and other pollutants. This graph on the right global warming. So for landfills, 43%, incinerating, so burning waste, 42%. And then eco-parks are waste treatment facilities. They take out the recyclable products, so that's why there's an arrow that goes out, but also some of the waste. And then sorting facilities, recycling facilities, and composting facilities do not contribute, so aid in saving global warming. Other environmental impacts are soil and water contamination. So especially from mismanaged waste, there's products that are leaking from our waste in landfills and that go into our soil and our water. And they can contaminate crops, they can affect people living nearby these facilities. And this graph over here, this blue image, it says like we put a lot of attention into the pollution of water, which we'll talk about afterwards, but there's also a lot of pollution, plastic pollution of the soil. So even between 4 and 23 times higher. And also these toxic plastics, this waste, these substances in these products hinder recycling operations. So they make recycling more difficult. About environmental impact of plastics, as you may know, we have in the Mediterranean one of the famous garbage patches. It's the 6th biggest one in the planet, or at least discovered in the planet. It's found between Corsica and Elba, so between France and Italy. And what we see floating, we have to know that what we can see floating in the water or on the beaches is only accounts for 15% of the waste. Most of it is 70% is on the ocean floor and in the water column. So we can't even see it, but it's there. And 75% of all marine pollution is made up of basically 10 plastic products. We also have microplastic hotspots in the Mediterranean Sea. These are underwater. They are created by underwater currents. And these microplastics mostly come from fibers, like from synthetic textiles and clothing. There's also microplastics in cosmetic products, as you may know, and also from breaking down of larger plastic debris. And microplastics, they act as, they attract toxics and pollutants, so they become like little toxic bombs. These are the different origins of plastic into the Mediterranean. So we have a big source that comes from intense human activity, so highly densely populated areas. Tourism is also a big part in contributing to this litter. Inadequate waste policies, of course, and then waste that is carried to the ocean by polluted rivers. All of these waste also has, well, as you may know, the United Nations says that by 2050, there will be more plastic than fish in the oceans. That's in weight. Ecosystem damages. You've probably seen plenty of images of animals that have been affected by our litter and our waste and plastics. This is due to, of course, poor waste management or littering. And these microplastics that we were talking before may enter into the food chain. So fish, animals may consume them, and we end up consuming them when we consume these animals. This graph on the right shows how 99% of all seabirds will have ingested plastic by 2050, and how 600 marine species are affected by marine litter, 15% of which are endangered species already. Waste also has impact on the economy. So being waste management, like the cost of managing, recycling, transporting this waste, the cost of cleaning beaches, the ocean whenever we can, public health costs that this may imply, and mostly tourism and fisheries. So it's estimated that the cost of these 10 to 20 million tons of plastic that end up in our world's ocean every year is of about $13 billion a year, especially in financial losses to fishery, tourism, and also cleaning the beaches. Waste also implies social impact. That is, for example, territorial and social aggressions where landfill and incinerating facilities are constructed. So the people that, especially the communities that live nearby, are affected. We also have well-being effects due to climate change. These are increasingly being obvious and common. Another social impact, especially with plastics, is when these are exported, this plastic waste, especially the less quality, more difficult to treat plastics, are exported from global north countries to global south countries. So this is facilitating global inequalities. Most of, or 1/3 of the plastic packaging waste from the EU is shipped outside of the EU territory to other countries. And this, of course, avoids countries to assume the responsibility of managing or dealing with their waste, and also externalizes the true cost of proper waste management. And this happens not only illegally, but also through legal paths, because there is a lot of lack of transparency of these shipments inside and outside the EU. There's also health impacts related to waste. We've talked about substances that leak from mismanaged landfills, for example, of crop pollution. All of this affects human health, of course, and all sorts of air, land, and water pollution. Then there's more direct impacts on our health directly from plastics. So plastics their processing and the packaging of plastics uses a lot of chemicals too. And this exposes us as consumers daily and continuously to health risks. You can see on the right, these are especially hormone-related diseases like thyroid disorders or breast, prostate cancer, also diabetes, obesity, infertility, and birth-related diseases and development, like children development is hindered by these substances. And some of these chemicals build up in our bodies because they are persistent. Both because we are daily exposed to these substances, but some of them even build up. And this is probably, they get into our bodies through our food that is in contact with plastic in packaging, and especially when this food or these drinks are in contact with, are hot or warm and in contact with plastic. This is a report by SUP RAC. It talks about not only plastic, but all the additives that are added to this plastic to give it certain characteristics. So some of them are, or most of them, or most consumer goods, like children toys or textiles, electronics, have these substances in them, and they are potentially toxic, and so they pose risks to the human and to environmental health. Again, some of them are endocrine disrupting substances or persistent organic pollutants. And the presence of these substances in plastic, in this case, also impede circular economy because they are not removed in the recycling process, so they stay in the system.